Good morning, and let me take this opportunity to wish all fathers in the house a happy Father's Day. On behalf of the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, I say a big welcome, or akwaba, to Accra, Ghana, for this year's Afreximbank annual meetings. The 30th annual meetings also coincide with the celebration of Afreximbank's 30th anniversary. So let me thank the bank for choosing Ghana as the host of your 30th anniversary landmark events. Indeed, Accra, Ghana also hosts the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which makes it the most appropriate place to commemorate 3 decades of successes in promoting intra-African trade by Africa's foremost trade finance institution, the Afreximbank. Mr. Chairman, the overarching theme for this year's meetings is delivering the vision, building prosperity for Africans. The chosen theme appropriately offers an opportunity to all stakeholders gathered here not only to celebrate the success of Afreximbank over the last 30 years, but also to reflect on how we can meaningfully contribute to Africa's recovery process after the pandemic and speed up intra-African trade, improve Africa's trade performance in the global marketplace through the creation of a single market for goods and services, promote industrial development through diversification and regional value chain development, and also enhance capital flows into Africa. Since its establishment 3 decades ago, Afreximbank has transitioned into a first-class supranational financial institution, championing African trade and driving growth across multiple sectors in Africa. Evidence of the bank's interventions are numerous and includes infrastructural investments to support intra-African trade, investments in agriculture and industry, trade facilitation, trade guarantee and advisory services, and country-specific programs to support those in dire economic situations, among others. Afreximbank has also introduced platforms designed to improve and facilitate trade in Africa, including the Mansa Repository Platform, the Pan-African Payments and Settlement Systems, and the Intra-African Trade Fair. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, during the last 3 decades, Afreximbank has achieved several milestones in line with the vision of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. That vision encapsulates not only Africa's aspirations for the future, but also identifies flagship programs which can boost Africa's economic growth. The highlights of the accomplishments directly relate to upscaling intra-African trade through Afreximbank's collaborations, programs, and projects, and include the establishment of the Afreximbank's Trade Impact Mitigation Facility platform, where Afreximbank intervened strongly during the COVID-19 pandemic and disbursed over $8 billion to central banks and commercial banks to avert trade payment defaults. Part of this funding also went into the procurement of test kits, personal protective equipment, and other COVID-19 containment materials in member states. The bank also disbursed over $5 billion to member states and businesses towards the procurement of food, fertilizer, and grains as the Russian-Ukraine crisis unfolded. Working with the UNECA, the African Union, and the AFCFTA Secretariat, Afreximbank created a pooled procurement platform termed as the Africa Trade Exchange to help African countries procure grains, edible oils, and fertilizers at reduced costs. Prior to the implementation of the AFCFTA in 2021, Afreximbank disbursed over $20 billion in support of intra-African trade and investments, and projected to double this to $40 billion by end December 2026. Afreximbank is also financing African-owned financial institutions to acquire foreign banks operating in member states with a view to building an interconnected African financial system to help promote intra-African trade. Also, through the Afreximbank Trade Finance Facility, about 500 of the continent's 600 regulated commercial banks have been provided with credit confirmation lines to support intra-African trade. The total amount earmarked for this project is about $8 billion. This funding is aimed at ensuring that every country on our continent has at least one bank that has a dedicated credit line to support intra-African trade. Afreximbank is also collaborating with the African Union Commission and the AFCFTA Secretariat to implement the biannual intra-African trade fairs, which may become the premier marketplace for the promotion of intra-African trade and investments. This, coupled with the establishment of the AFCFTA Adjustment Fund, for which Afreximbank is providing a funding of $10 billion, could help African countries effectively adjust to AFCFTA tariff removals and prepare them to participate in the new trading regime. Ladies and gentlemen, we in Ghana have also benefited from a cordial and productive relationship with Afreximbank over the years. To mention a few, Afreximbank's first official deal was a participation in a syndicated loan to the Ghana Cocoa Board. The bank also provided support to Ghana's Volta River Authority in 2014 to enhance energy generation and help resolve the energy crisis the country experienced during that time. Afreximbank has also had a good working relationship with us at the Bank of Ghana and facilitated foreign exchange swap arrangements with banks in Ghana to boost foreign exchange liquidity support for Ghana's international trade. Just recently, in the midst of Ghana's economic crisis, Afreximbank agreed to extend a $750 million loan facility to the country to finance capital growth-related expenditures in the 2022 budget. Over the years, various collaborations between Ghana and Afreximbank have resulted in a disbursement of over $2 billion to support various development and trade-related initiatives in Ghana. Your Excellencies, what clearly stands out in Afreximbank's journey over the past 30 years is its collaborative nature in pursuing initiatives, projects, and programs with other African institutions to achieve the African integration agenda. The planned events for this year's Afreximbank meetings will involve critical discussions across various sectors of our economies. So I encourage all of you to participate actively and help broaden the policy discourse with your contributions towards the prosperity of the African continent and its people. I would also urge you all, especially those visiting Accra for the first time, to find time to explore the city, participate in the planned discussions, and enjoy your stay in Ghana. We wish you a pleasant stay in our country. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of His Excellency, the Egyptian Minister of Finance, it gives me a great pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome to the 30th annual meeting of the African Export-Import Bank held in this wonderful city, Accra, under the auspices of His Excellency, Mr. Nana Akufo-Addo, President of Ghana. The world economic and financial landscape remain uncertain. As the rest of the world, Africa is facing a number of challenges, from the residual effects of the pandemic, inflationary pressure magnified by the geopolitical tensions, tightening in global finance conditions, the growing impact of climate change, rising risk of debt distress in large number of countries, and the adverse effects on the demand for African exports. Therefore, there is strong need to boost regional trade and enact industrial policies for diversification to enhance Africa's resilience to spillover and the contagious effects from the global shocks. And here comes the pivotal role of African Bank across several streams, which are all anchored within the bank's six strategic plan for the period 22-26, focusing on intra-Africa trade, Africa industrialization, and the continental trade leadership in a financially sustainable manner. In this regard, we have to applaud the bank for its efforts and achievements during 2022 in developing and implementing new solutions to alleviate the negative repercussions from global shocks on the continent. In light of these considerations comes the importance of this year's theme, delivering the vision, building prosperity for Africans, which affirms that leading institutions like African Eximbank have to work collectively towards an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the international arena. Also, the theme strongly aligns African Eximbank's endeavor with the 2063 agenda and the Africa we want. With this esteemed gathering and level of participation, I hope this year's meetings will introduce advanced experiences, exchange thought on cutting-edge theories, and propose constructive ideas and suggestions for the development and prosperity of Africa. I would like to conclude by wishing the African Eximbank every success and successful annual meeting that support its mandate as one of the leading regional institutions that deliver the 2063 vision. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be with you here today as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of Afreximbank, an institution that, as we all know, has been at the fore of investing in trade finance in Africa. Afreximbank celebrates 30 years, and this coincides with the 60th anniversary of the Organization of African Unity. In May 1963 is when the OAU was formed. And our founding mothers and fathers, in their wisdom and in their vision, actually already foresaw that there has to be an Afreximbank. That is why, in accordance with that vision of our founding mothers and fathers, if you look at the treaty documents that establish the Organization of African Unity, they clearly set out an objective, and that objective is that we must have economic integration in Africa, and that we must introduce tools to advance that objective of economic integration in Africa. Payments, a seamless payments system, an intra-Africa trade fair, trade finance that is affordable, inclusivity of trade, to make sure that young entrepreneurs, women-led small medium enterprises, that they have an opportunity to contribute to an integrated market in Africa. And so all of these tools, all of these things that Afreximbank has been doing over the last 30 years were foresaw in the founding treaty of the Organization of African Unity. And all of the past presidents, and I know that some of them are here, the past presidents of Afreximbank have also singularly focused on this objective of integration in Africa and trade finance. And so I'm extremely proud that the AFCFTA Secretariat, under the overall leadership of His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, that the AFCFTA Secretariat is a very strong partner to Afreximbank, and I said this previously. Afreximbank and the AFCFTA Secretariat are like twins, except one twin was born 30 years earlier, the other twin was born 30 years later. But this relationship is important because if you don't have the finance, after you have eliminated all the barriers to trade that exist, your effort will come to zero. And similarly, if you have the trade finance, but the trade barriers remain, the effort and the objective of Afreximbank will come to naught. And so we have a mutually complementary relationship which shares the objective that comes as far back as May 1963, when our founding mothers and fathers in the great city of Addis Ababa decided that they will establish the Organization of African Unity. We have taken this relationship further under the leadership of President Orama and the board, as well as under the leadership of President Isufu. We have introduced, as you know, the AFCFTA Adjustment Fund, the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System. Soon we will introduce an Africa-wide transit guarantee scheme. And all of these tools are important because they make trade accessible, they make trade a reality, they reduce the cost of trade, so that across the length and breadth of our continent, millions and millions of small medium enterprises that are led by women, that are led by young entrepreneurs, can see the benefits of a market that we correctly define as a market that by the year 2050 will have a combined GDP of 16.2 trillion United States dollars. But we have to build the future now. We have to build 2050 now. That is why the partnership with Afreximbank is so critical. And I know that my colleagues in the African Union, in the overall family of the African Union, Ambassador Muchanga is here, CEO Nados is here. All of us in the African Union depend on Afreximbank for your support, for your wisdom, and of course to make sure that as Africans, we create and define our own narrative. That as Africans, we rely on ourselves, and that as Africans, it is ourselves, our own institutions, that will create the better future that we want to see. former chairperson of the African Union Commission, as you've heard. Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is here with us this morning, and in being the principal architect of Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want, embedded in it is the AFCFTA as one of the flagship projects. And so I am extremely proud that today we join Afreximbank in celebrating 30 years, and I hope that we will continue the very, very strong partnership for Africa's economic advancement and the advancement of our shared ideals that have a long tradition and a long history. The AFCFTA has been ratified by 47 state parties. Only one member of the African Union has not yet ratified. The political commitment is there. The political will is there. The tools that we require for success, as I mentioned, are there. The Adjustment Fund, the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System, and others are available at our disposal. And I'm also equally grateful that our heads of states and government have continued to entrust President Mahamadou Issoufou with the task of leading us to make sure that the AFCFTA does indeed become a reality in our lifetime. Thank you very much.